And what brings you to today's panel?
Something different.
Yeah. I'll try to make it as different as I can, for sure. Okay. And we met earlier, but I didn't catch your name.
As a writer, I'm a aspire.
Aspiring writer. Okay. All right, let's talk about that. I'm Tom. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. Obviously, this is going to be pretty casual. But so quickly about me, I've published 9 novels with imprints of Random House and Simon & Schuster, and then a handful independently, as well as having worked for Todd McFarlane on Spawn, and then also, if you've heard of it, BattleTech. I write fiction for BattleTech, which is super cool. 14-year-old me is really freaking out that I get to write fiction for BattleTech. So cool. So yeah, do all that. And then my background prior to that is mostly in theater. I ran a couple different theater companies in Phoenix, Arizona for 13 years, 16 years, something like that. So that's where a lot of my storytelling kind of stuff comes from. And when I started, I was probably like you guys or like a lot of other authors and writers that I've met who were like, you know what? And this is dead serious. This is really who I was. I was think about writing, because I started writing in 2nd grade. And later on, I was a really terrible job testifying. I just wanted to get out of it. That's what made me think about, I really want to do something with this writing thing. And when I was thinking about it, though, I was thinking, you know what I want? I want to go into my local independent bookstore and see a book that I wrote on the shelf. And that's it. I will be happy with that. I was not thinking about money. I wasn't thinking about, I'm going to be famous. I'm like, none of that. I just want to see the book on the shelf, which I thought was a fairly decent goal to have. And then I got my first agent and sold my first novel, which went to auction between Random House and another publisher. And when that happens, that means the 2 publishing companies are battling each other to try to get the rights to publish the book, which means the advance kept going up and up and up until we finally, and I never disclosed the actual amount, it was not 6 figures, but it was really close. It was really close. And I was like, okay, I had no idea what was going on. So that was really being thrown into the deep end of traditional publishing, what we call traditional publishing. And nobody prepared me for that. Even with my agent, who was lovely and got the deal, that was great. There was no, here are the things you need to be thinking about. Here's some things to be aware of. And that's what kind of it just drives me crazy to meet other writers and authors who also are in that boat and they're not getting coach on what to expect. That was the purpose of pitching this class for here. So Heather, would you tell me a little bit about, or one of you, either of you, tell me a little bit about what what's like the genre, what kind of genre are you mostly writing in? Fantasy, okay. And if you could let the genie out of the bottle, wave a magic wand, whatever, what is your top aspiration for your writing? What would you like to see happen? Yeah, very cool. Anybody else want to throw in? If you're I'm not sure who's all writing and publishing, but if you have something else to throw in, by all means.
I'm currently working on like a graphic novel, but it's again more like fiction, kind of sci-fi. Yes. And I have up to 10 chapters already drawn out. And I want to make it into a physical book for people to be able to only read it on their spare time instead of being glued to a screen.
Okay. Are you then? So what was it?
Jessica.
Jessica.
Yeah.
Is it currently on Webtoon or one of those?
It's actually on my portfolio website. I do animations, so I put on a section where people can read the first 10 chapters there. Yeah.
When you say check, I'm curious. I've worked in comic books a little bit, but I don't think that's the same thing. So what's a chapter? How many pages is that?
I usually write out what's going on in the chapter first, and that determines how many pages it is.
Okay.
More often than not, I find minimum I'm usually like 8 to 10 pages, and like so far my longest has been almost 17 pages long. Yeah.
And that's all sequential art.
Yeah, it's all
all
done by me right now. I don't really have a team, so it's more or less I work on a chapter and up it goes.
Yep. Anybody have a team? Yeah, no, me.
Yeah.
Is it, what style is it, would you say? Is it more like manga or is it more American? Not more, Western.
I've actually been told by my teachers at college that I have a style that's very on the middle. Like it has an anime look, but it's got more of a Western style to it.
Okay. Yeah. I think I can imagine what that looks like. I think mine were too. Not an artist. I hired somebody.
Right.
I can't do that. So you have an online portfolio. Do you track visitors or like likes or anything? Is there some kind of metric that you have?
Really, I just have it up for people to read, but I do have a lot of people who like read it and say, "Hey, I'm a fan of your work," that kind of thing. I do get feedback from my readers.
Okay.
Here, got caught.
Been there. Okay. And your sort of end goal in a perfect world for the time being would be a physical,
You
something you
know,
could
a physical
bring home.
book that people can purchase and read and have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have, so for both of you, if not all of you, do you feel like what I would call traditional publishing is like the main thing? You like you want a publisher to come in and take it and quote unquote do all the work, or are you like, no, it's my baby, so I'm gonna hang on to it and do everything myself? Where do you fall in that spectrum? No wrong answers. I'm just curious.
I wouldn't mind a publisher to help with the marketing side, since I know that's my weakest strength. As for most of the work, I again do all of it on my own, but I wouldn't mind an extra hand once or twice.
Okay. Heather, what do you think?
I've split with everything else to have that helping marketing and distribution
Yes, or what?
and editing.
So good answers. Very good. Michael, do you have any? So there's a couple of interesting words there that came up. Marketing, obviously being the big one, and distribution, which are two different things, obviously. Or perhaps not obviously. Number one on our list of things nobody's going to tell you is that not always, most of the time, a traditional publisher is not going to do the marketing that you think they're going to do. Now, with prose novels, if you're lucky, like I was, and you're the season title, so like the lead title of whatever season it happens to be, then there's usually a couple more dollars thrown your way for like end caps, like, at the bookstore, those big cardboard things like that. Maybe a tour, but those have really precipitously dropped the last several years. It's very difficult or very rare that happens anymore. But you get into these traditional deals where they have, first of all, licensed your work. And that's the word I want you to start thinking about. You're licensing. Don't say buy, because they're going to say buy. You're going to say license, because that's what they're doing. Licensing the right to your work to put it out into however many different formats and that kind of thing. They might do what they call a boilerplate contract, which is here's all the stuff that we want. And if you think of, let's say, Harry Potter, for example, Harry Potter is not just a book, right? It's a book and it's clothing and it's a theme park and it's movies and it's audiobook, all that stuff you own right now, today, as we sit here. And when you go to a traditional publisher or try to go traditional, they're going to say, cool, we're going to take all of that and give you 10% or whatever. Which you then have to weigh, okay, is what they're offering in terms of an advance or in terms of their marketing going to be worth giving them absolutely everything. If you have an agent that's a little bit more flexible, you can start asking for stuff. Sometimes they give it to you, sometimes they don't. But it's the kind of thing that very few writers or artists really in general understand might be happening. So you're welcome. Something to keep in mind. Now, that's why I open with what do you want? What do you really want to do? Because with traditional publishing, are you more likely to get that, like say, distribution? Yes. You're going to get it in bookstores and stuff like that. You probably won't be able to get into if you self-publish or independent or start your own company or that kind of stuff. That gets very hard to do. Okay, so you won't have that. You'll have cons, which are great. In fact, I was just talking to Amanda about this. This is a big part of our marketing. It's coming to cons and tabling and doing all that kind of cool stuff. Then we get to meet people, which is really cool. A publisher might send you a con. They might not. You can ask and we'll see what happens. Sometimes there's money that are going to claim, sometimes there isn't. But you aren't gonna have your own books to sell either, so you don't get any of that kind, right? So that could be an issue. But it depends on what you really want. When I published traditionally with Random House and those guys, I did notice doors that I wouldn't have had access to did start to open for conferences, conventions, things like that, being invited to be a guest speaker, to teach, to go to schools, universities, things like that. Those sorts of things start to happen when you do have this sort of cachet of a traditional publisher behind you. So that's cool if that's something you want. If you're really not as worried about that, then that's not the direction you want to go. Maybe you stick with doing all the work, right, by yourself for many years,
Yeah.
and go independent. The advantage there being all those rights we just talked about, all this audio and all the clothing, everything, you get to keep all that stuff. And I think we're in a place now where, and you can do this from your phone, like you can write the book while you're sitting on the subway or whatever, and go to Redbubble, go to whatever, a website to make merch for your stuff if you want to. Again, that's another avenue that's available to you that you can control. Audiobooks, you can do audiobooks yourself. You can do the paperback, the hardcover, the graphic novel. If you're not an artist like me, you go out, you hire somebody who is, and you get it out that way. Kickstarter becomes an option now. You can put stuff out and do, which is a great market test to see who's out there and interested in your stuff. As an indie, you have all of these options that you don't have, that you could blow up, you could make a living at, or same with traditional. You can also do both. I think Heather, you mentioned that, kind of wanting to do both, what we call hybrid. That's an option as well. You can take this, like what I'm doing right now. I'm writing a book specifically for the traditional market. And I'm going to take it to agents and editors, all that kind of stuff. And then over here, while I'm not doing that, I'm putting out as much other content as I can to build up that presence, social media, et cetera, all that kind of stuff. So those are just some of the options. I'm talking a lot. Any questions about any of that? Does anything jump out at you? Or, no, not for me. I don't know. Anything come up, I'll take a sip of water. And then I'll keep talking.
You brought up independent publishing. Would that be like if, say, we wanted to publish it through Amazon or something, we could still retain the rights to all that and they just help us sell it?
Yep, that's it. So and making me a graphic novel, I have not published a graphic novel through Amazon, but there is a way to do it.
Okay.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think I think it's an open tab on my computer right now. I think there's a program from Amazon you can download that will help you format graphic novels and comic books to then upload back onto Amazon. Yeah, which is cool. Very nice of them. And then now with Amazon, you also have to choose what percentage what rights you're giving them to, right? Because to my knowledge, the two biggest dogs in the block there are Amazon or Draft to Digital. Number two, Draft to Digital. Because Amazon is Amazon.
Yeah.
Draft to Digital is literally everybody else. They go out to Nook, they go out to all these other Apple books, all the other places that aren't Amazon. So that's an option. There are pros and cons. Some people prefer to go Amazon and stick with Amazon,
Right,
because they incentivize you to do that on the back end in terms of your royalty. But you won't reach as many people, potentially. Because the downside of Draft to Digital is they don't have the market share that Amazon has. I think it's leveling out a little bit, but it's still not as big. Apple Books just isn't as big as Amazon. You can't. That's the elephant you have to deal with. But it's all options. Those are all the options you have, and you can do it. And certainly there are a number of places where you can print yourself. You can print everything. For a graphic novel, I would certainly look for people who that's what they do. I wouldn't just pick a printer. I would pick a comic book graphic novel printer who knows what they're doing and will often have downloadable templates, for example, so you can do all that kind of stuff yourself. What programs do you use?
I currently use two, actually. I use Paint Tool aside for doing a lot of my shading, and then I use Clip Studio Paint, which can allow me to export to PDFs so I can keep all the images in one chapter.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, most of these printers will give you templates that you can just take that and pop it on there and then send it off to them, and everything works fine. As you go down that road, I would definitely look at that. There are other printers available. I have not used them. I've stuck with comic book people just because I think other stuff. But then once you do that, now you've got the option to start your online store. You can do a Shopify, you can do a WooCommerce, whatever, and sell those physical copies if you want to. hopefully this sounds like a lot of work. Because it is. There's just no getting around it, which is the other thing nobody tells you. Like, we just scream out, it's fun. The question for you all that I try to tell my students is to take yourself out for, a drink, a cup of coffee, whatever is your beverage of choice, whatever place you feel most connected to yourself, whether that's walk in the park that you like or by the lake or whatever it is that for you is like your place, right? Go to that place when you have a time or create time to do it and ask yourself those questions. What do I really want? And don't BS it. If the truth is, like secretly, I want to make $1 million, then you need to say that because making $1 million as a writer is a different trajectory than I just want to see my book on the shelf. There's some overlap, but there's two very different things, my experience, and you are going to alter your path based on what those answers are, which is also different from, okay, if you're not on a budget, get on one because you're going to need to know these numbers at some point already. What do I need to, what's my lowest sort of threshold if I didn't have to work somewhere else? If I was just living on my writing, for example, what dollar amount monthly net is that? And the funny thing I've learned about that is it might not be as high as you might think. And to get there might not be as difficult as it might seem. It's not easy. It's not fast, but it can absolutely be done. For instance, if you do your budget and you come out to, okay, I can basically to maintain my standard of living, pay everything, I need $5,000 a month. Okay, that's a lot of money to make it right. On the other hand, it's 1,000 people paying you $5 a month. That's not in the grand scope of things. With the global reach we have right here, 1,000 people isn't a lot, really. And if you're doing any kind of serialization or series, right? It's like with fantasy, I assume it's probably more than one book, right? But you're not going to charge $5 for it. Charge what it's worth. That's the other thing I'm ashamed to say I've just recently learned. Like many independent authors, I was pricing myself about $2.99 for an ebook and $5.99 for the whatever. Charge what your book is worth, and then you don't need as many. But don't. And I say this because I need to hear it. But stand by your work. Stand by your work and believe in your work and say, no, this is good. And if this paperback or whatever is worth like $19.95 or whatever, $25, that kind of thing. Absolutely. That's just one of those things where playing the discount game probably isn't going to get you where you want to be. Still a little bit hard. It's a slog, but something to consider, something to think about as you're moving forward, all that kind of stuff. Let's see. Any questions about any of that? I know it's totally going off in 1,000 different directions, but there's so much to Lord. Anything come up?
Sounds very similar to video game development, to be honest.
Probably. Yes. That sounds what work have you done in that?
It's actually something I went to school for. And I was at Center for Arrested Technologies, and they taught me about animation and game film and visual effects. Yeah.
You're like the 18th person. I've heard about this, but never heard of it until today. And now everybody talks about it. Okay.
Apparently, they were in the East Coast for the longest time in Halifax and Nova Scotia, and they brought out a couple studios up here.
Okay. So walk me through, what do they do?
Well, they pretty much teach you like the fundamentals of animation, the video game, and film, and just cartoon animation marketing. And they have a business course that teaches you the fundamental basics for that kind of thing as well. Okay. How to get your foot in the door, how to handle like contracts and stuff like that.
Yesterday, I was talking to somebody about that. We were talking about that exact thing, and that one of the advantages to that school, and I think maybe Okanagan College does it as well, I'm not sure, but they talk about that, and most schools don't. That's infuriating. I'm at UBC, believe it or not, to get an MFA in creative writing, because I'm not allowed to teach. I have 9 books, random house, Simon & Schuster. Schools are like, cool, where's a piece of paper? You've got to be kidding me. But they are dead serious about that. So I'm up here getting my MFA. All right, cool. Really good program. Really, I am learning lots of stuff. Great cohort of students, professors, and everything, and it's great. However, nobody is talking about exactly that. They're not talking about agents. They're not talking about contracts. They're not talking about budgeting. They're not talking about marketing. None of that is in the curriculum, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
To what really pissed me off, don't tell anybody since, we actually had a Zoom class, and our professor brought in a senior acquiring editor at Simon& Schuster. So like up there. And we spent an hour with this person. And at no point did she say any of this. Nothing about agents, nothing about your royalties, nothing about the marketing. Just say, yeah, we're gonna send your book in, we're gonna publish it, and publishers are gonna market it. I almost choked. I was like, I'm sorry, they're gonna what? No, they're not. And I'm waiting for someone to ask, and nobody, all these bright-eyed students, okay? I'm like, oh, you're getting caught, you're gonna kill, you're gonna die out there. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to say anything because I'm a student, but it was infuriating for that very reason. So I'm very glad to hear that. That's exactly what they should be doing. That's
Oh
good.
yeah, it was definitely a big help, especially when I was starting to apply to studios.
Oh yeah, I bet. And okay, and so what are you doing now? Did you say?
Right
What's-
now, I'm freelancing. I work for a Twitch streamer who's doing some new mechanics for his channel, so I do animation work for him.
And that's not something we could have talked about 10 years ago.
And
That's a brand new thing, and that's I think one of the reasons I like to talk about your IP. This big, you've got a story, right? What's the name of it? You finished at least one book, right? Or not, or Professor. What's the title of the series?
Kings Cross.
Kings of Prosper. Kings of Prosper. That's an IP. That's Heather owns Kings of Prosper. All this kind of stuff. The trick now is how many different pieces of pie can you cut this up into? Never in a million years would I thought, oh, of course, I'm doing freelance for a Twitch streamer. I was like, what even is that, right? But now that's a thing you can do. You can design or have somebody design your own game. You can design your own animation stuff. You can take this IP, turn it into a script, hand it off to somebody else, and make your own animated show on YouTube if you want to. Not that it would be cheap, but you can. The option exists. Is that something Random House is going to do for you? Probably not. If you're lucky, you might have an agent who is plugged in to the whole Hollywood thing. Maybe they're going to try to get your script option out and all that kind of stuff. Super hard to do. Does not happen as often as people like to probably think that it does. And even then, when it does, it's not as worth as much money as you might think. And even then, you might get the option, get $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 for it, and then it sits in somebody's filing cabinet for 10 years because they had the same idea and they're already getting ready to launch theirs, so they're keeping yours out of circulation. Insane. It's absolutely insane. Or if you want it, and I'm not a suggestion, but something to think about, you have the absolute freedom to take that IP and say, oh, I'd love to make a movie out of this. I'm going to go to Kickstarter and do that whole thing. I need $5,000 or whatever to do a short, or I need $10,000 to do an animated thing like that. Again, that's not prescriptive, but it's something that I want you to have in your toolkit. I want you to be thinking about some of those options as you continue to develop this stuff. It's not as it's not as restricted as just I wrote the book and now I'm going to go into my KDP account and put it up on Amazon and then walk away. Because I'm sure that's never the end of it. You can't just throw it up and walk away. That's a whole other issue. But yeah, cool. Is anything else coming to mind as we go through any of that stuff that's got you thinking or anything like that? Oh, look thoughtful, Ian. I'm doing that.
Trying to think of questions.
Okay, that's cool.
Don't worry, I may not come.
That's all right. I understand. I have to don't either. So then the other thing, flies get very crazy. The other thing that I always try to instill in my writing students is to talk about a little bit about money a minute ago about your budget, right? You absolutely should know what your income and out. You need a budget to know where your money's coming from and where it's going. Because then once you have that, you can start to make adjustments to it as necessary as your career continues to grow and expand. So that's number one. The other thing that a lot of people, nobody really talks about though, is your physical, emotional, spiritual, economic, whatever, all these different types of health. Nobody talks about it. Because artists don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but a lot of us come into this career with baggage or some things that maybe we struggle with from time to time. All right, leave it at that. I'm going to self-disclose. but there's stuff, right? There's just stuff that we bring to the table just as people. And what happens is writers, and I'm sure it's all artists really, I'm sure you've probably been into this, artists in general get this, I don't know if it's because we're trained to do it in school or just what, but we tend to think of ourselves in silos. I get up at 6 a.m. and I write for 2 hours, Monday through Friday, because I'm a writer. And then I gotta get the kids off to school, so I'm a dad. And then I need to do such and such at work, and so I'm an employee. And so like we have these little silos all over the place of relationships. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's damaging because as creatives, we don't stop. This doesn't really turn off, right? It's always going. So the other thing I want you to be thinking about is that you are a writer or an artist, a creator 24/7. And don't fall into that trap of not to say that you don't have responsibilities. We do. There's stuff we gotta get done. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But don't think of yourself as I'm only this and from this point to this point. It's an all-encompassing thing. Because we have these filters. It's almost like with those big whales, right? They just drift through the ocean and catch stuff, right? They just catch all the plankton. We're like that. We're just catching all of these different sensory things that someday may end up in an animation, in a comic book, in a novel. Remember that mindset of just, I'm always working. Even if I'm asleep, I'm dreaming about stuff that I'm going to get up and write down when I wake up. Even in your sleep, you're working, right? So this is 24/7. But the thing, go back to the title of the panel, the thing that people don't talk about is how prepared are you for like when things go wrong? Because they will. I promise you, they will go badly. Somebody will leave a bad review on Amazon, or you'll publish your book traditionally, and a magazine like Kirkus will get it, and they will just absolutely tear you apart. Or you'll be on social media. I'm like, I was running a Kickstarter right now, and I, the first time, decided to run an advertisement for it just to see what would happen. I got one comment on that advertisement. That one comment was, "I hate this," and just went on for a paragraph. This guy took time out of his life, and it wasn't even the comic book; it was the ad. He hated the ad and had to let me know in no uncertain terms how awful the ad was. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man. And that's one of those things, if you are someone like myself, when you see that, that could take your legs out for the day. Or even the week or longer, depending on just how bad you happen to be in. Those things happen. And if you're not aware that those things can happen and the impact they have on you, then it can get worse. This is an industry, and again, mostly it's creative and artistic across the board, regardless of what it is. It's an industry where we are willingly, for some absurd reason, giving all of ourselves out there. Like, how much of you is in your books? How much of you is in your comments? That's what we do. All of us artists and creatives, we put all of ourselves out there and hope people like it. And not everybody does. And when they don't, we assume it's a personal thing. It's not. But sometimes, I know for me, it's hard to talk myself down from that thing. It just feels very personal. And that can be a very negative thing. That's normal. That's okay. But be aware of it. If you're not in a healthy place, let's get into a healthy place before we worry about Kickstarter, publishing. Don't worry about it. Let's get to a healthy place first so that we are ready for when those kinds of things happen. It's not maybe the most fun subject to talk about, but I wish more people had. I remember when my first book came out, I was invited to there was a very popular or powerful librarian. I don't know how to describe her, but she was a librarian, like everybody knew this librarian. She was a big deal. And she would do author dinner parties. And I got invited after my first book. All right. So my wife and I go, and I'm with the new kid. What's going on? And there's a group of people out in the backyard, huddled together, and they're just crumbling, kind of casting glances over the shoulder. And I was like, what's that over there? So those are the authors, the other authors. Like, why do they look like that? So I went over and introduced myself. Hi, I'm Tom. I was like, oh, my book comes out, you know? And they were like, let's go. They weren't mean, but they weren't impressed by me at all. And I'm like, that's weird. I really thought they'd be more excited. Okay, whatever. 2 years later, book number 2 comes out, and I get invited to this party again. And where did I go? Off to the corner with the other authors, and there was a new author. Hey, everybody! And I was there. Yeah, how's it going? Because by that point, the industry had crushed me. It's just going anyway. But it happens. Those are the kinds of things that can come up, and it's just better to be aware of them. Now I understand why the authors looked like that. It's, oh, I should have brought one of my books. I didn't. When your book shows up, you'll get like 20 or 30 books from the publisher. When the book comes out, they just send to your door, like, "Woo, you get your author copies." And I was so excited. Got my author copies. All right, great. And this was my book. This was my debut novel with Random House, all this kind of stuff. And then it took me a little while to realize that what I was calling my debut novel, publisher had another name for it. Does anybody know what another name for it was? A unit. This is a unit that needs to be shifted. This is a unit that we are selling. So never forget that those traditional publishers are in business. That is what, and that's okay. That's not bad. Bad mouthing it. I'm not decrying it. I'm just saying, as authors, if that's the route you go, get an agent, do traditional publishing, be aware this is a unit. And it's their goal and job to move as many units as possible. That doesn't mean that your editors and your agents aren't also artists and who are going to be like, they're going to come alongside and cheer you up and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of part of their job. But as far as like the president of Random House is concerned, that's a unit. And we need to sell units. And if you don't sell units, bummer for you. We're going to move on to the next person who does. It's that fast. It's very fast. Again, that's okay. They're in business. They're allowed to be in business. Totally fine. But if you have a sensitive artist heart like me, that can be a very difficult thing to learn and a very difficult thing to get accustomed to. Yeah, just want to make sure that I said all that because if I can help one person avoid a complete catastrophic meltdown like I am prone to, then I feel like my job is done here. So yeah, so there's all of that. What forever. Anything else that comes to mind as we talk about that? Questions about the process? Anything like that? Are you guys up on how, if you want to do traditional, do you know how that all works? Like how to get an agent, all that kind of stuff? Have you already studied that or heard that kind of thing? If you want to. Okay. Yeah. Anything else crop up? That's what it's like. I'm throwing so much at you. So yeah, it's very awkward sometimes. Not now. Everything. And I came in at a really weird time. I got in just as Facebook went public. So like it had already existed for a few years just with college and university stuff. And then Zuckerberg opened it up to everybody. And I got it just about there when everyone like me was like, I don't know what this is. What do you do? Why would I do that? Posting pictures? What? Who? What's a friend? Just none of it made sense. And the creatives who were more tech savvy than I was were able to jump on and go, oh, all right. And they made the most of it. And I have not yet been able to crack that on any social media. It's happening on TikTok right now. There are authors who figured out how TikTok works and jumped in this whole book talk thing. And they're just, it's going nuts. And I'm following them going, what did you, wait a minute, excuse me. You took your book and you flipped through it for 15 seconds and posted it and 100,000 people like that. Okay, great. Like, I just don't, no clue. I don't understand how any of that kind of stuff works. Because if I did, I would be doing it and I would pass it on to you, but I have no idea how any of that happens. I do think, though, and this has held true for me, the fans who read my first novel 13 years ago are still with me today because of stuff like this, of like cons and bookstore events, things like that. Community is the main thing. Rather than marketing is a necessary evil, we have to get the word up in front of people in some way, shape, or form. You can use free social media. You can do like collaborations with other artists in your area, your niche or your genre, and try to get some exposure that way. That's also free. Or you can buy Facebook ads, you can buy Amazon ads, you can do all that kind of training or whatever. And there's a time and place, I think, for all of that. Those are all options that belong in your toolkit. But the number one thing for me is that connection, is having that kind of relationship with people and building your community. This is the Heather community. We are the Heather heads, or whatever you want to call it, right? And we do stuff not because when I do a Kickstarter these days, I know 50 to 70% of the names, like some of them I went to high school with, right? And are they going to read the comic? Well, they might not, but it's me, so they'll be there. You know, that kind of thing. I think we're all collectively better served framing our marketing that way. I think it goes back to the 1,000 true fans kind of idea, right? Connected to that, I'm working one-on-one with an individual student right now who is still the worst. Not a doctor, not a therapist. I've just had several over the years. Some kind of clinical depression. It's bad. It's really bad. And this student, as we have been talking about social media, they're saying, yeah, but nobody's going to like it. And I'm over here, you're right. They won't at first, but you have to get out there and start planting these seeds and posting this stuff. And they're like, I can't handle people not liking, retweeting, all this kind of stuff. And visibly upset even talking about it. Wow, no, I get it. So we need to do something else here. Okay. So in that scenario, and they said, I don't want my face anywhere. I don't want to be I can't be on video. I can't do That's cool. I'll do it until a theater kid. I can do jazz hands all day. I'm fine. Put me in front of a camera. There you go. If that's not your jam, cool. Do the thing that is and let people come in that way. For example, in that case, I was like, okay, they're a math professor. And I was like, tell them something about math. So you clearly teach math because you like math, hopefully. Tell me about math. And they immediately launched into a 10-minute talk about why aliens aren't necessary to build pyramids. And their face just lit up and went on and on. I'm sitting there listening on Zoom, like, and then they wrapped up and was like, do that. Do that. You should have seen, I wish I could have shown you how your face lit up, how your voice got animated as you talked about this thing that you're so excited about. Do that. Write that down for me. Yeah.
Someone with generalized anxiety disorder, I know that firsthand. And as you said, the moment you start talking about what you're passionate about, it's all that anxiety melts away. You don't even have to have your face up. Even just recording what you say is enough. And hearing it back, it's what I'm passionate about. Once you hear your own voice, it changes things so much.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, thank you for that. That's absolutely true. And in this student's case, I basically made the same argument. I was like, listen, you've written, she was working on fantasy, she wrote a series of fantasy novels. And I read through a little bit of the first one, like, okay, you're a good writer. Like, you're certainly not bad. You got the chops to do this. Go write me what you just told me. Yeah, 500 words, go. And so they came back the next week and I read it. I was like, I'm not a math guy, but this made sense to me. Good job. Go put this on Facebook. And then take a couple of sentences that you really like and throw that on Twitter. I'm still struggling with how we're going to deal with the anxiety part of what everybody likes it. I get that.
Yeah.
But they don't have to do a video. They don't have to do audio if they don't want to. I think those are good options. I think audio is a great option.
I found the biggest hurdle was hitting that button. Like the moment you hit that button is like when all those thoughts get into your head. And even just before it, you start ruminating. The one thing I ended up finding with myself is even though I started ruminating on it, I hit that button anyway. I told myself, press it anyway. And it was amazing the polar opposite reaction that I ended up getting. I just at that point, it clicked with me. So if you ruminate on it, your anxiety will get the best of you. Keep quiet. With that said, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And I get the same thing. I've been doing this for 13, 14 years. And that still happens.
Yeah.
Like, what if it's so stupid? Oh my, like it just comes in.
Oh yeah. Sending an email is definitely the most challenging one. I still do that. Oh, this isn't great. Oh, I gotta fix this. Nope, just send it.
Just send it. But yeah. I'm a big proponent of the quantity. Like the more quantity you get out there, you don't know. You don't know what that thing is. It's gonna land. I'm doing a Facebook marketing test right now that I've been learning about, and you're putting 10, not random, but 10 headlines basically, no images or anything, and it's very low dollar amount, right? Just to see what comes back. And so I'm just throwing all this crap out there. There's that. It's about a YA novel, and out of nowhere, I'm getting this huge engagement over. It was something like true or false. When somebody falls down in the mosh pit, I pick them up. Go back to my old punk days. And that just lit up. I'm like, okay, so now I gotta figure out, so there's an audience for this book that I wrote that takes place in that era. Now I just gotta figure out how I'm gonna get this book in front of those people, right? But doing it was a question of quantity. Send 10 out, 20 out, 30 out, whatever, on these low dollar amount things. and then you learn about it. Okay, the one follower, and then two equals four, and all that kind of stuff. Uh, but anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Community. Yes, if you talk about things you are most excited and happy about, things that get you going, people will start. It's like an accretion disk. People just start to fall into that orbit and discover you, and to do it in whatever format you're comfortable in. So I think, yeah, audio. I like audio a lot because you can wear PJs. Like, okay, I can look like crap, doesn't matter, but it can still capture the excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, I was gonna say, visible. It's just there. You can hear it. I also think audio, if it's not here already, I think it's going to continue to grow, because if it's not happening yet, I think what's going to happen, based on what I've read from other sources, is pretty soon everyone's going to have that little Alexa or whatever device in their bathroom or their kitchen or whatever, and they're going to say, Alexa, read me a fantasy story, and you want Heather's book to be the first thing that comes up. So I think audio is going to continue to grow. It's been growing for quite a while. I think it's still going. I haven't looked into it recently, but as far as I know, I think it still is. But it solves a lot of problems, I think, because you can nowadays too. Now, once you make that, then naked, raw, unedited audio, you can ship it into a video transcriber, automatically transcribe the thing, do a little cleanup, whatever, and boom, there's your blog post, there's your Twitter post, there's your Facebook post, there's your LinkedIn, there's your all that kind of stuff.
Looking at it as an audiobook as well, or allows those who are parents to enjoy them too.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, that's another thing that I feel like, I don't know, maybe you know more about this than I do. It seems like it's only been recently that accessibility has finally started coming to the fore, like with websites. I need to redo my website now, and I haven't gotten to it yet because I'm just starting to learn about people who can't access it the way I would access it. Nobody told me that wasn't a thing. It just didn't ever occur to me. But yeah, you're right. The accessibility thing is huge, and I would argue incumbent upon us to do that, or to get everybody. I would also say, on that note, tangentially related, is that, and with the anxiety portion, is there is 100%. We may have talked about this, and I don't remember. There's 100% a reader and audience for what you do. No questions asked. Browse through Amazon for 20 minutes, and you will start to see very quickly there is an audience for everything. Is it 10 million people? Maybe not. If it's not reverse harem, vampire, steampunk, whatever. Maybe not. But what you're doing, I promise somebody out there needs and wants that story or whatever it is you're doing. And will become a fan for life once you get to them. It's just a question of making that connection. Absolutely. Anyway, are there any other questions or thoughts about any of that? I hope that's helpful. It's so many details that go into it. But if this is the thing that you want to do, then I beg you to do it. That's the main thing. I'm assuming like you guys over here support each other and encourage your team over here. I'm presuming. I meet way too many people who have this thing they want to do, and they don't have, whether it's spouse, brother, sister, mom, whoever, who's on board. Even if they don't get it, like you don't have to get it. You just have to support it. You just have to say you can do it. You just have to be on the team. And then if this is the thing, and here's the word that I want to maybe leave you with, is that if, that big underline that if this is. So, Jessica, I'm assuming, I'm going to jump out on a limb here and assume that you're doing all the drawing, the animating, all this stuff because you like it, right? Not because your dad was like, you better become an animator, right? Like
Yeah, no, I just happened to be in passion. I found it.
Yeah.
I found a way to learn it, and the school that can teach what I need to know.
Yes.
Both on the animation side as well as the business side. So
Yes. Yeah.
that was the biggest help for me because my weakness was the business side. I
Yeah.
didn't know a thing about it, and they taught me at least the fundamental basics.
But nobody, correct me if I'm wrong, nobody told you this is what you should do. It's not like you're secretly an accountant. That's what you really want to do. And instead you're doing great. This is your thing.
Like high school, they always tell you, oh, you should do this, you should do that. But it was always the copy paste, same thing, someone else to do.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it was like, I like what I do. I see that other people do it and they enjoy what they do. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Fact. Whatever it is. And if it's one of those things where, listen, I don't need to make money doing it. I just want to do it because it makes me happy. Then for God's sake, please do that.
Yeah. I always saw the money side as a bonus.
It is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And I think you're up to a great start already with that. And I'm trying to get back to that, honestly. Oh, no, I was talking with PJ yesterday. We were doing a thing on the main stage. How my career goal right now is to get back to being 12. Because when I was 12 or 13, I wrote my first novella, like 30,000 words. I made a movie with a VHS video camera. And we got to edit it at school and screen it for my class. How much money did those make? I'm 12. Like, they were terrible. But I did them. And I had a ball and I got to share them. And if I could get a piece of that back into my career, I can't imagine the heights that I would get to.
Enough, it was actually a phrase my grandparents taught me when I was a kid. Is do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And you're so right. If you do what you love, it doesn't matter how hard you work, even if you make the money on it. It's just you enjoy what you do. Even if you don't make any money on it, you still enjoy what you did.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
I've got now 12 years, I think, behind me as in public library experience. And that was a good fit for me. Cool, I can help you with books. Like I'm around books. I can take an hour and shelve books, which is that perfect kind of zen area of I'm accomplishing something, but I can be working at the same time. It's a great fit for me and that kind of thing. And like, cool. So I did that and I would do it again without any problem because if that's the thing that's going to allow me to keep doing the comic books and my movies and the books and whatever else I'm doing, great. Let's do that. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I'm so proud of you. Because too many of us don't. And that's it. It just drives me crazy to think of somebody reaching the end of their journey and being like, damn it, I really should have written that book. Or trying to do this or whatever it is. It just bothers the crap out of me. So
Like I actually learned in the website called Coffee, spelled KO-I, and it works very similar to Patreon. But
yes.
Control on it. And for my next set of chapters, I've been putting it on there, and I have it where people can either donate or not really donate. They can take a one-time buy, or they could do a monthly subscription. So
Yes.
see that, and I found even my development process, even if I just have the pencil sketch to sketch the page down, I put that up so they had something to enjoy.
Yeah.
Or do the sneak peeks help too.
Yes. I can't remember who coined it, but somebody said practice in public, I think, and I'm still struggling with that myself, but I see the wisdom of it, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And there are so many, the Patreon, Ko-Fi or coffee.
Coffee, they call it.
It's called
like giving a cup of coffee.
Yeah, buy me a coffee.
Yeah.
Right? Is up there? Yeah. That Substack is now starting to really rise up as an option for subscription methods. Ream, REAM, is another relatively new subscription site. These are all, again, not prescriptive, but these are all tools to look into to put that toolbox and be like, oh, would this one work? Royal Road. Your Royal Road, you guys heard of that? Okay, so it's not, I don't think there's a way to monetize Royal. I'm pretty sure they don't have that option, but it's a fantasy posting site, and it's almost exclusively fantasy. So I've tried posting some things there and get some pretty tepid response, but they really love their fantasy thing. And you can start developing followers there, 10 and then 20 and then 30 and then 100, and then you launch a coffee or a Patreon or whatever, and you'll get that percentage that switches over. And here's the thing about that pisses me off. People are paying 10, 20, 30 bucks a month to get early access to stuff you're going to publish anyway in a month. Blows my mind, but people are doing it. And the reason I think people are doing it is that community piece. They like you, and they're like, yeah, I'm just going to be there for heaven because I love it. It's nuts to me. Like, I'll just wait. I'm that guy. Like, I'm not paying for this. But then again, if it was that author that I met or that author that I knew or that I really liked their stuff or the artist, and I'm like, gosh, really? Okay, I can do $5 a month or whatever. It's nuts out there, but it's all entirely possible. So yeah, put those all in your toolkit for whatever's next. I don't know, but whatever's next. Any other, I think we're coming to the end here. It says, I like to hear myself talk. Anything come up in your got something? Good. No, that's okay. That's good. Yeah.
One question,
Yes.
is like with traditional publishing,
Yeah.
is it possible to like negotiate with them to make it more of a fairness?
Yes, technically you can, and it is a negotiation. That's generally speaking, it is a negotiation. Um, how much wiggle room largely will depend on the strength, the relative strength of the agent. Like there are some agents out there that are called kingmakers. Everything they do takes off. Like it's just insane. Like the agent, I can't remember her name now, but the agent who first represented Stephanie Meyer from Twilight, like she can come in and be like, "We're doing this," and the publisher can take it or leave it, and she's got that power to do that. Most agents don't have that level. So now I was able, in my case, my first agency was, and I didn't know this at the time, that's completely luck on my part, was one of these power agencies when it came to children's or YA. And so they were able to push and get me some more stuff. The truthful answer is yes, you can negotiate. Absolutely. That's what happens during the sale, during the licensing phase. Are you likely to get everything you want? That gets a little, no, like,
Yeah, you gotta find a compromise, right?
yeah. Like I always come in as a theater kid. I'm like, I want my theater rights. Nobody used to do a play. So they're like, okay, because they know no one's going to bother, so they don't care. They'll give them to me. Audio is a sticking point. I have lost count of how many publishing deals I've made where they like audiobook is a deal breaker. So you say yes and license the audiobook, and then they don't make one. I'm like, why did you fight so hard for this audiobook if you're not going to make the damn thing? Like, it doesn't make any sense. For me, moving forward with my next agent, I'm going to be doing a lot of what they call sunset clauses. Listen, you can have everything, but if you haven't this stuff the next year or 2 years, then it automatically comes back to me because this is ridiculous. Whether it's film rights or audio rights or whatever, yeah. And so there's stuff you can, that's all negotiable. How much they're going to give up is a little bit more dicey.
So they need to make a profit too, right?
They do, yeah, and they do. They got big offices in New York. They got a big part. But I will say, just so that I know I've said it, just in case, probably, but I don't want to not say it. Remember, when it comes to traditional, money flows toward you. Do not pay agents until you have sold the book. Ever. Anybody comes along and says, "Oh, I can get this in a random house. Just pay me $100." No, they can't. Always comes back to you. They take a percentage of what you sell. That's it. No upfront ever. It's just one of those things I always forget to say. Like, oh no, because a lot of scams out there. Definitely a lot of scams. And you gotta be careful. Cool. Question with you. Anything else? Thanks for coming, Michael. I hope hope that was fun. Yeah. Good con. I don't. Yeah.
Almost a good one so far.
Good. Glad. Yeah. Same here. Seems not quite as busy as last year. It's a little smaller, but I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong about that. But still fun.
Don't know. I was here last year.
Right here. I think last year too, I think we got the post-COVID crowd ball. So like, please give me my con.
Yeah.
That would be with my people. Yeah. The first one I went back to last December before was not a good sales year, but oh, it felt so good. It's just to be back at a con again. Oh, there's Superman back. Oh, okay. We're home. It's good. 2 years without that was really starting to get twitchy. I need to see people in costume. Come on. So yeah, it's good to be back for sure. Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm gonna be next door for an hour. And then I'll be back at my table for a little bit if anything does come up that you want to ask. But thanks for coming. I appreciate it. So that was helpful. And keep writing. That's the main thing.
Very important. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you very much.